The Democrats are like, this was in the president's request. Okay, so someone in the bureaucracy, and who knows if the president proved himself, made a bad call. So we double down on the bad call by then spending the money we already said was bad? And this makes sense to you. Folks, President Trump signed the stimulus and government funding bill. I just got to give you the facts here. I spoke about the potential for a pocket veto last week. I thought it was his best weapon here. If you want to watch that show on Wednesday, our last show, you can hear it out. But two takeaways here. Number one, it's an atrocious bill. It's an atrocious bill. Don't take my word for it. Listen to President Trump. He told you last week the bill is terrible. He pointed out all of this foreign aid for cultural diversity in the Pakistani police force. That's not a joke. I'm not trying to be funny. This stuff is in the bill. Costa Rican gender inclusion programs. $431 million less dollars for immigration detention beds. Less, not more. Less, not more. The bill's atrocious. That is a fact. There's no sugarcoating it. I don't do my show on any political allegiances. I do my show based on principles we've stuck to for 5 years and have served us well. It's an atrocity to humankind. So your next question is, well, why did President Trump sign it? Because, ladies and gentlemen, outside of the pocket veto option, which we're not even sure what happened there because of the timing of the bill, that was still up in the air by Wednesday, he needed some backup. And I have to tell you and be candid with you, he has been ill-served by the pathetic Republicans up on Capitol Hill and inside of his bureaucracy in the White House, too. I'm really sorry. He's been very ill-served. He needed some backup on this, and he doesn't have it. Outside of very few, and there are some left, some principled Republicans left on Capitol Hill, but very few. Outside of those few, ladies and gentlemen, he's been entirely sold out. He had no backup on this at all. This was a great chance for the Republicans in solidarity to stick to it, to say, hey, listen, we come first. Let's get rid of all this foreign funding. Let's transfer the American people's taxpayers' money, because it's our money. Let's not have any illusions about these government stimulus checks. It's our money. It's our money given back to us. That's all it is. Stop. It's not a multiplier. Forget all of that. But it would have been a great opportunity to say all of this stuff is gone. We're getting rid of all of this foreign aid for now. We can reconsider it later. We're going to take a principled stand and we're going to return the money to the American people. It didn't happen. And President Trump had no backup. And there was let's be absolutely candid, there was no way for him to single-handedly make it happen because he doesn't have any backup up there. I'm not apologizing for anyone. I've said that these ridiculous spending bills are a bad idea and he shouldn't sign them. Having said that, this is an atrocity, this bill. He had absolutely no backup, and nothing is going to change in Washington, D.C. unless the group of Republicans and a large majority, or even a plurality of them, can get together and decide that we're going to stick to principles like not bankrupting the country while taking care of foreign countries at the same time. We all knew this was the wrong thing to do, and it happened anyway. Do we not, to anyone listening in the audience, anyone, even the kooky liberals who listen to my show, I'm asking you an honest question. Do we not on its face know that during a coronavirus pandemic where millions, if not tens of millions of people are seriously struggling right now, that it's a bad idea to take those people's money and send it to Costa Rican gender inclusion programs? Who thinks that's a good idea? Raise your hand. Paula's not raising her. Joe, is it? Let me see. Paula has Joe.
No, I don't
see Joe raising them. Okay, no hands raised here.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy?
Nope.
Even Lucy's not raising her hand. Amelia? Neither. No one. So why did we do it? The answer is because our political system is entirely broken and we have people with no cojones at all. They have no... I blanked that out myself. Sorry for those of you who can read lips. None of them. It's broken. They are totally broken. The system is broken. We can't even conduct an election. We are perilously close to bankruptcy as a country. We are reaching the breaking point of our national debt at $27 trillion, worth more than everything we produce. We don't even produce $27 trillion in stuff in any given year. That's not even our GDP. And that's what we owe. And we're paying for Costa Rican gender inclusion programs for their police force while the country's going bankrupt. Amazingly, I'm going to leave you with some good news in this segment. Like, no way, Dan. This sounds really bad. It is. You have been sold out by the most feckless class of losers in human history that all managed to get elected to Congress at the exact same time. From Just the News, which will be in the show notes, John Solomon's excellent site. Actually does journalism. Trump averts shutdown. There was going to be a government shutdown. Signs $2.3 trillion spending and COVID relief bill. Trump had refused to sign the bill until Congress raised the amount of money paid to everyday Americans. So what's in the bill? Well, there are two, I don't know what to call these. They're not highlights, lowlights, whatever lights. There's two things of the bill, two tenets of the bill that you need to get, and two things Trump says he got in from the Congress in return for signing this disaster. I'm telling you, he had no leverage here at all. The Republicans didn't stand with him. They sold him out. And then they're saying, oh, well, it was in Trump's request, all of this foreign aid. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, that's fine. It's not fine that it was in there. It's terrible it was in there. But it makes my point I made in the beginning that the White House in general are surrounded by people in the bureaucracy not serving him well. There are people who still think this stuff is a good idea. What's in the bill? Screenshot from the Just the News piece. Despite Trump's misgivings about wasteful spending and low stimulus payouts in the bill, Trump said he signed the legislation because, quote, I have an obligation to protect the people of our country from further economic devastation. He said, however, more money is coming as Congress votes this week on larger checks. So keep that up a second. So he has gotten supposedly a promise that they're going to vote on increasing these checks from $600 to $2,000, checks going out to the American people if you meet the income requirements. The president on Sunday also invoked the 1974 Impoundment Control Act to demand rescissions be made to the spending measures. Under the act, the president can seek congressional authority to rescind funds by sending a special message to Congress, identifying the amount he proposes to cut, the reasons for it, and the economic impact. What does that mean? So we have two things the president demanded in return for signing this thing. Number one, that they increase these stimulus checks to the American people from $600 to $2,000, again, if you're below a certain income level. Secondly, that they do these rescissions and they take this, what he's going to red line out. There is no line item veto. Let's be crystal clear, meaning the president can't red line the budget and say, I'll accept this, but not that. He doesn't have that power, but he does have the power to demand rescissions. Now, what the rescission means is the money he says shouldn't be spent. Costa Rican gender inclusion programs. Now that money goes into impoundment and Congress has 45 working days. That money's freezed for 45 days to stop spending on that portion of it. They're not going to. Again, making my point that the president can't act alone. He needs people in Congress to help, and they won't do it. There are too many rhinos combined with too many Democrats. So you get what I'm saying? The president has said very simply, okay, I will sign the bill, but I'm demanding Costa Rican gender inclusion programs, the millions we're spending on that in the bill, I'm demanding that be subject to rescission. The money's then impounded for 45 days. You may say, well, that sounds good. No, it's not good. Because in order for the money to be permanently taken away, like the president and we want, Congress has to pass another bill saying, okay, we're going to take that part out. And they're not going to do it because Congress is controlled by who? Democrats, who are big spending disasters, and their fellow rhino Republicans, which is probably half of the Republican caucus, which love the spending too.
Right.
Does that make sense, Joe? So basically, in 45 days, the money's released anyway. I'm telling you, that's why all this pile on the press. Oh, he folded. What was it? I don't understand what you want the guy to do. He has no backup at all. Was it a bad decision to put all this funding in the request? Yes. Does that mean we double down on the decision and then spend the money? What kind of stupid call is that? The Democrats are like, this was in the president's request. Okay, so someone in the bureaucracy And who knows if the president proved himself, made a bad call. So we double down on the bad call by then spending the money we already said was bad? And this makes sense to you.
You just heard Dan Bongino.